So you want to be a profitable law firm owner in 2026? Well, you're in the right place. Now, this is going to be a multi-part episode. Can't possibly cover this in one show. So if you are not subscribed to the podcast or the YouTube channel, you want to make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you get notified every time a new one of these episodes drop. Here's the thing. My name is Moshe. I'm the host of the Profit with Law podcast, but I also am the owner of Dream Builder Financial, doing business as Profit with Law. We're serving the legal community. We've been doing this for 6 years now, so since 2019. But in the last couple of years, we've been serving larger firms in a fractional CFO capacity. We serve small firms in a business coaching capacity. So we help solos grow beyond themselves. We help solos go from maxed out solo to 1 to 2 million in revenue in 12 months. And we help larger firms 2 million plus in revenue. We help them not only scale their business, but we help them unlock a profit margin that most firm owners would say is impossible. We believe that a healthy profit margin is somewhere between 30 and 40%. Greater than 40%, and maybe you're leaving some money on the table that could be reinvested in the business for growth. But that's the sweet spot. And unfortunately, even at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million in revenue, many firms are running at sub 10% or sub 15% profit margins. So this conversation is not just for a solo attorney looking to be profitable. It's not just for a $5 million business looking to be profitable. It's really for every law firm owner out there. And profit is the most important metric to look at, because anybody can spend money to make money. But if you spend less to make more, that is what business is. And that is how we excel. And that is how we reap the benefits of the rewards for doing so. If you don't know about my story and why I do this, I am on the quest to helping you create generational wealth. That's not going to happen if you're not running a profitable business. So this episode is going to be the kicking off point of a series of conversations that we're going to have, talking about how to make 2026 the profitable year for your firm. So let's dive into this. The very first thing that you need to know or understand when it comes to running a profitable firm, scaling or growing your business, is that your mindset has to be in the right place. And when I say that, I did a whole episode on mindset. My team is going to link that up in the show notes. It was recently released, so you can just go back a couple episodes, you'll find it. But what I mean by that is that you have to put yourself at the finish line in order to start the race. What does that mean? Well, sitting here today on January 1, 2026, I don't know when you're listening to this, but let's just say that it's January 1, 2026. Sitting here today, I want you to ask yourself this question. If I had a genie in the bottle and I could make a wish for my law firm, and any outcome was possible, what would I want my firm to look like 12 months from now? Now, as soon as I ask this question, even with the genie in the bottle, most people's minds go to starting to dream about what they want and then saying, no, that's not realistic, or no, that's not possible. And the problem is that you are self-limiting the possibilities for yourself. The best way that I like to look at this is, if we look at somebody who is operating at a much higher level, we can see examples where what we want to achieve is entirely possible. For example, let's say you're currently at 2 million in revenue and you want to go to 10, and it seems like going from 2 to 10 in 1 year is impossible or is unrealistic. What I invite you to do is look at somebody who's doing 50 million in revenue. Do you think that for them, going from 50 to 58 million in 1 year is a big leap forward? Or would that be something that comes easy to them? The difference is because they're operating at a higher level. It's not because of the resources they have available to them. It's just because of the way that they operate, because they've already been through this process. They already know what they need to do to generate more, right? So what we need to do is we need to decide what we want as the starting point for this entire discussion. Because if you don't know what it is that you want to reach for, and I mean reach, aim high, aim for something out of reach, aim for something that seems impossible, and choose that. Because what that's going to do is it's going to drive everything else around this conversation. What I do with my fractional CFO clients, my law firm growth elite clients, that's our business coaching clients. What I do with all of them, same process across the board, is we do an annual plan, and then every quarter we add on another 90 days and we revisit the annual plan. So we're always looking 12 months out, but we're always focusing on the next 90 days. And in order to figure out what you need to focus on in the next 90 days, you have to have the map for the next 12 months. You have to have the route already mapped out. The analogy I like to use for this is a GPS. So essentially, if we think of a GPS, the GPS needs to know where you are right now, and it needs to know where you want to go so that it can calculate the fastest route to get there, right? From point A to point B. Without knowing the destination, it's useless. It can't calculate a route because it doesn't know where you want to go. Without knowing where you are, it's useless because it doesn't know where to take you from to get there. The way that I look at this annual plan is that is the route that's calculated from where you are today to where you want to go. However, along the way, you can hit traffic, you can hit a road closure, a detour. Something can change in the calculation of which is the fastest route, and the GPS reroutes you. That's what we do at the 90-day mile marker. At the 90-day point, we look and say, is there a better way from where we are right now, a new starting point? Is there a better way to calculate a straighter path to where we want to go? And we reroute. So in order to look at 2026 and say, how do I make this year profitable? How do I make it the scale or the 10x version of what I am today, right? That requires us to identify where it is that we want to land. Where is it that we want to go? And with that, it starts to open up a world of possibility. So let's just use, I don't know, do I want to use a small example or a big example? Okay, let's assume we're talking about a maxed out solo. Okay, you're running between 250 and 500,000 in revenue, and you have no time to do anything. You feel like you're completely tapped out. You don't know where to turn. You're not earning enough to justify hiring an attorney, all right? You're not earning enough to justify spending money on marketing. So you've been hustling in the marketing, you've been hustling in the selling, and then every time that you get clients, you serve them, and then to the detriment of selling. So you have these hills and valleys when it comes to the revenue in your business, and you know that there's a better way. So what's the destination for you? What would be ideal for you? Do you want to be at 2 million in the end of 2026? 2 million in revenue? Or the way I like to look at this a little bit differently is rather than looking at doing 2 million in the year, do I want to be 2 million translates into $166,000 a month, right? So do I want to be doing $166,000 months by December 2026? If that's the number for you, and I'm just picking an example for the sake of a podcast and a YouTube recording, right? But if that's the number for you, the next step is to start thinking about what is that going to take as far as the number of clients I need to serve. So let's say you're running an estate planning business, and I'm going to pull out a calculator. I'm not going to do this on the fly, right? 166,000, right? Let's say that we're running an estate planning business and our average client is worth $4,000. So I'll take 166,000 divided by 4,000. Now, this is in the most simplistic form. Obviously, there's different types of clients, there's different levels of revenue, and you'll have to figure out the mathematical adjustment for what percentage of clients are in the different types of buckets. Or you have two different practice areas, or maybe like if you're doing estate planning, you're also doing estate administration or estate succession. So we have to look at each of those separately. But for the simplicity's sake, let's just choose one, right? 166,000 divided by 4,000. That's 41.5. So call it 42, right? You need to bring in 42 clients a month to be doing 2 million annually. Now, when we put it that way, 42 sounds like a lot, but it also doesn't sound like a lot. It's actually not that many. If we look at how many days there are in a month, there's 20 days in a month. We're talking about 2 clients a day. Can we conceive of a possibility of bringing in 2 new clients a day, every day of the month, on average, right? It doesn't seem so far-fetched when we start to boil it down that way. Now, the other thing we could do is we could play around with, well, what if it was $5,000 per client and not $4,000? What would that do to the math? So if we just go up by $1,000 per client, it's 33. 33. We went from 42 to 33. We eliminated 9 out of 42. We eliminated 21% of the work to achieve the result that we want. Now, I understand that we're working with just pie in the sky numbers, right? Who's to say you could raise your price by $1,000? Well, pricing is going to be something that we're going to focus on in one of these discussions. As a matter of fact, pricing is the secret lever, right? It's the one lever that doesn't cost you anything, that you can choose your own destiny, right? And you can set your own path. So we'll get to pricing, but just understand that right here at this juncture, there is the ability for you to make the work easier, for you to get to your result by simply changing the way that you charge for your services. Okay. So what we've done is we've mapped out what a month needs to look like for us to be tracking that times 12, meaning that's our annual revenue. We also back that into how many customers do I need to acquire to do that. Now, the next step, and before I share the next step, let me just share this opportunity with you. I don't know when you're listening to this, but we have a brand new workshop that we are hosting. The dates for it, I should have had a calendar open, last Monday and Tuesday in January for the one coming up. And we'll be doing more of these, but it's the beginning of the year. This is your opportunity. 2-day workshop starting January 26th and 27th. So January 26th and 27th, we're going to be hosting a 2-day workshop. And in that 2-day workshop, I'm going to go through what we cover with our elite law firm growth coaching clients in the first 6 to 12 weeks of them joining us. And essentially in that span, we do what I'm talking about here on the podcast, but we actually execute on it. So in other words, we go through this process and we create this plan so that when you leave, you have absolute clarity about what you need to do in order to make 2026 your best year ever. So if you're interested in joining me for that, I'm not going to say the price here on the podcast because my team has been playing around with this and discounting it, and they don't even ask my permission anymore. They just go in and they're like, hey, let's see if we can offer this discount today. So it's priced at $5,000. They've discounted it as low as $250. We've sold seats at $250, at $500. It's out there. There's some sort of promotion right now. I don't know what it is because I don't know when you're listening to this, but go to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. Law Firm Growth, LFG 2026. profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. You'll be taken to a page that explains everything we cover on the workshop. All the details for travel and whatever, they'll be sent to you in an email following you signing up. The workshop is taking place in Montvale, New Jersey. It's a suburb of New York City. So you can fly into any of the major New York airports and spend 2 days with me. Tack on the weekend before spend the weekend in the city. Great idea. I know it's the middle of the winter, but the winter is beautiful here. So come and join me. But I think that if this topic is something that is right up your alley, exactly what you need right now, then you need to be in the room with me at this workshop. Okay, so what we've done is we've identified how many clients we need to achieve or we need to acquire in order to achieve this result. Now, there's two different things, two different parts of the business that we need to attack in order to figure out or navigate how can we make 42 or 33 clients happen, right? And those are the staff needed to deliver on that service, right? And the marketing required in order to generate that amount of business. So what happens as a solo is most of your business is built off of word of mouth, referrals, getting the word out there. Maybe you dabbled a little bit in some internet advertising. Maybe you've got a Google business profile and you got some reviews on there. But chances are most of your business is coming in unpredictably, and whatever you have in place today is not necessarily scalable to the level we need it to go. So maybe you're currently bringing in 8 to 10 clients a month, but we need to 4 or 5 or 6x that, right? And I aimed too high on 8 to 10 clients, right? You're probably less than that. If you're a solo, you're probably doing between 250 and 500. So, maybe you're less than that. It really depends on the practice area, how much you're charging for the service and all that. So let's look at these pieces, okay? So first, with marketing, what is the challenge that we want to solve with marketing? The challenge we want to solve with marketing is we want to have something that is predictable, that can get us or scale us to that level if we're successful at it. So we want to be really careful about selecting the right marketing strategy or strategies that are going to get us the result that we want. With staffing, we want to look at staffing from a efficiency standpoint, but we also want to be realistic about being able to execute on the plan. In other words, here's a good example. Somebody needs to sell these clients on becoming your client, right? Call it a salesperson, call it an intake person, call it whatever or a consult person, whatever you want to call that person, right? If you need to generate 42 clients in a month, your close rate is not 100%. And if it is, then there's something else going on, right? Like we're not trying hard enough to get people in the door. We're only talking to people who already have decided that they're going to work with you. So your close rate is less than 100%. Let's say that your close rate is 80%. Well, you're the owner. If you put somebody else in that role, chances are, at least initially, it's going to be less than that. So let's say your close rate goes down to 60%. Now that could be high for some of you. Some of you might be closing at 25%. So use your number. But what we do is we say, okay, if we want to end up with this number of clients and we have this close rate, we need to back into how many meetings we need to have. How many actual leads or potential client conversations do we need to have? So now we go back to our handy dandy calculator and we take our 42 and we divide it by our 60% close rate. And that's 70. Now, if your close rate was 25%, we would divide by 0.25, and that would be 168. That is a massive difference, and that's the big difference between having a better or worse close rate. But somewhere between 70 and 168 is the number of leads you need to generate every single month in your business. Now, here's the scary part, right? If we start thinking about, well, what is the cost of those leads? Let's say that those leads cost $250. Let's say we need 70 of them, and each lead costs $250. And let's actually say that 20 of them are already coming in through other means, so we only need 50. So there's a math problem here, right? Because in order to produce this result, we need 50 times 250, or $12,500 a month to spend on marketing. Now here is where the first challenge mindset shift needs to happen. Your initial gut is to say, I can't afford $12,500 a month. And you're probably right. because in your current state, you cannot afford it. But this is where I want you to start thinking as if you've already gotten the result, right? Because which comes first, the investment or the return? The investment always comes first, right? So if you put in $12,500, you will get the number of leads that you need out on the other side of that. And that will turn into the number of clients that you want. But if you were already at $166,000 a month, would you be okay spending $12,500 on advertising? Yeah, you would, right? I'll tell you why you would, because I know that firms spend as much as 20% of their revenue on advertising. 12,500 divided by 166,000, it ain't 20%. It's 7.5%. 7.5% is phenomenal. You can make a lot of money having marketing at 7.5% of revenue. So, if you put yourself in the result already, then spending that money becomes easy. Now, there is the financial navigation of like, okay, how do I come up with this? How do I spend this money if I don't have it? And we have to address that. And it's good that you have that question in your head. But I want you to understand that right now, what we're doing is we're painting a canvas, right? We're painting a picture of what it looks like to achieve the level of success that you want in 12 months. And it is only possible if you can recognize that the way to get there is going to cost you some money in marketing. And in this example, you're going to have to be ready to deploy $12,500 to produce the result that you want. Okay, that's the marketing side of it. Then we look at the people side. If you were serving 42 clients a month, probably you need a salesperson. Right? Because we said you're booking 70 leads, 70 conversations a month, right? So somebody needs to sell those 70 people. Now, if that salesperson is an attorney and you're not doing non-attorney sales, that is 2 conversations a day. I'm sorry. In 20 days in a month, that's 3.5 conversations a day just on the sales side. Now, you also need to service 40 clients. So we got to look and say, hey, does one attorney cut it? And guess who that attorney is not? You. It's not you, right? You cannot grow your business beyond yourself unless you extricate yourself from it. So the solution is hiring another attorney. But attorney is not the only thing, right? An attorney is going to need a paralegal, or maybe even more than one paralegal, depending on the business model, right? Depending on which practice area you're in, whether there's more work for the paralegal versus the attorney or vice versa. So criminal defense, for example, less work for the paralegal or legal assistant, more work for the attorney. Estate planning, more work for the paralegal, less work for the attorney. So we want to have the right mix of support personnel. And then we have to look at back office, reception, front office, office manager, whatever, right? You got to look at all of the different roles and say, what do I need? Now, for you to think about that in your current state, where maybe you don't have any employees, or maybe you have a virtual assistant working overseas helping you out, or maybe you have a girl in the office or a man in the office, your office manager, maybe you have somebody in that role in your office. But we have got all these other roles that we need to fill. Now, we're painting the picture 12 months from now, so consider them already filled, right? If you map out what those salaries are, right? Like, let's say the attorney is $10,000 a month, and let's say that the paralegal is $6,000 a month, and let's say that the legal assistant is $4,000 a month. So we're at 20 if we're keeping up. And let's say that you have a office manager, reception, also another $7,000 a month, right? So $27,000 a month. Between that and the marketing, you're at almost $40,000 a month. That's probably all the revenue you're bringing in right now, without you taking any income, without any other expenses being looked at. So we're going to have to answer that question or navigate that. But this is what the team needs to look like at the end. But here's the funny thing, and I don't know, most of you probably are not like math in your head doers. I am, but I'll do it for you. 166,000 minus 40,000 between people and marketing leaves 126,000 left over. Call 16 or 20,000 for overhead, rent, whatever else you got going on, right? we're left with $90,000. Can you live with $90,000 a month in profit before taxes? That's $1 million of income on a $2 million business. Can you live with that? I would imagine most of you can, right? I would imagine that would be life-changing for many of you. And notice that we painted that picture without you being the one doing the work. We didn't include you as the attorney, you as the salesperson, right? We filled those positions. And that's step one of this process. If you want to make 2026 your year, if you want to make 2026 the year that you profit, the year that you scale your business, the year that you grow it beyond yourself if you're a solo, and if you're beyond solo, the year that you unlock the profit margin that you really deserve, right? You didn't quit your job and start your firm so that you could just have a really, really difficult and low-paying job, right? We all want to have a level of success that we're not carrying debt. We're not thinking twice about taking a vacation. We can leave the office early and not late. We can take the family away a few times a year. We can fund our kids' college if that's what the stage of life we're up to. We can fully fund our retirement, and then even more than that. If all of those things are the reasons and part of why you're doing what you're doing, then we got to find a way to get there, right? And this is how. We begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. That's what we're doing. Paint the picture of what this looks like. And that is step one of making 2026 your year, making 2026 the profitable year, making 2026 the year that you finally get out of your own way. And with that, I'm going to leave you, because what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to have an episode where we talk about pricing. We're going to have an episode where we talk about staffing, an episode where we talk about marketing. And we can't cover all of those topics on one episode either, but we'll give you some of the basics that you need to know so that you can navigate this path forward with a level of conviction that you can succeed. Here's the thing. I mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it to you again. If this is exactly the information that you needed, if this is like, oh my gosh, he's speaking my language, I need to understand how to do this, please give me the rest of this information. What you're going to get on the podcast is great, and you can take it and run with it. But for most people, they're going to get stuck somewhere along the way. They're not going to be able to turn this into a full-fledged plan for the year. And if you want to basically have that handed to you on a silver platter, then what you want to do is come and spend 2 days with me. January, let me just make sure I'm giving you the right dates, January 26th and 27th. It's a Monday and a Tuesday, and it's in Montvale, New Jersey. It's not a fancy town. It's not Vegas. We're not trying to get you to some ritzy place. What I want to do is get you in a room where we can focus on your business for 2 days. And join me in that room, and you're going to leave with the action plan that you need to succeed in 2026. And with that, I'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye for now.